They knew he was there. They were watching him. He was able to fly a drone beforehand. He was able to get within 150 yards of the president with an AR-15. He had explosives on him.
Why do you think that a lot of Americans are like, this doesn't add up, this doesn't make sense, guys?
When I surveyed the site myself, that there weren't agents at the points that were most obvious.
Nobody was placed in the most obvious spot to conduct counter-sniper operations. I was a sniper in the SEAL team's, Colonel. As soon as I got out of the SUV and I saw that water tower, I was like, that's exactly where I'd be. Put me right there. So obvious.
I would not be surprised one bit if Thomas Crooks acted in coordination with others.
So what are the main questions that you have that are still unanswered from that day?
Well, on that specific issue, you have to go back even before the 13th in Pennsylvania. In my mind, you have to go back to the fact that many of us said that there was high likelihood that there would be an attempt on the president's life. I mean, you gotta go back to the fact that President Trump's political opponents not only tried to bankrupt him, they tried to put him in jail for over 700 years. They've tried to throw him off the ballot in many places, and they hated his guts because he was one of the few leaders that came to Washington and actually tried to not only keep his promises, but to change this town. And this town doesn't like that very much.
This is something that is undermining our democracy, and he must be stopped. Joe's our guy. We love him. We trust him. He has vision, knowledge, judgment, integrity.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
And so when you're watching that type of history unfold and you're watching that trajectory, I mean, if President Trump would have stayed down in Florida and golfed, nothing would have happened to him, but he decided to run again. And that's when you saw all of these things, all the lawfare, the attempts, like I said, to bankrupt him, throw him in prison for over 700 years. And as you were watching the trials, I mean, many of them were just so ridiculous. It was bizarre to see in a country that we grew up in, and many of us have thought for a long time, you know, that type of stuff couldn't happen here, but it was most certainly happening here. When I look at the lead up to it, and then I look at the fact that a young kid who was spotted by multiple individuals that were charged with securing the site, they knew he was there, they were watching him. He was able to fly a drone beforehand. He was able to get within 150 yards of the president with an AR-15. You know, he had explosives on him. When I surveyed the site myself, you know, there weren't agents in many cases at the points that were most obvious.
Like the water tower.
Like the water tower, for example. A lot of it just didn't add up. And that had many of us wondering what's going on here.
And you actually uncovered the information that there were that window that was overlooking the roof where Crooks shot from was actually, there were supposed to be SWAT team members there. Is that correct?
Behind me, you see the windows that Secret Service was supposedly in the second floor of this building behind. It makes you wonder why they weren't able to quickly dispatch the individual. And then behind me, back over here where those red roofs are, that's where the stage was set up. That's where the president was giving his speech from. A lot of questions here in Butler, but we look forward to doing oversight and getting to the bottom of it and making sure it never happens again.
Yeah, so there were individuals in that building, but you know, a couple of the things that we were told that they didn't put snipers on that roof because it was too slanted.
Should that roof have been secure, period? That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, you know, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so, you know, the decision was made to secure the building from inside.
It was funny because I think before me, a gentleman and a colleague from Florida named Carlos Jimenez got up on that roof, and you know, the guy's like 70 years old. He walked right up the roof, no problem. So did the rest of us. It wasn't slanted at all.
Here on the building where the supposed sniper took a shot, it's not that steep at all. We just had a 70-year-old man back here climb up on the roof easily. See that water tower behind me? Had Secret Service or anybody had sniper teams up there, this guy wouldn't have made it 5 feet up this roof. He would have been taken out.
All right, Colonel Paris, did you notice when you showed up on site what the tallest structure on the site was?
I can't say at the moment that I arrived that I did, no, sir.
Okay. Now that you've had a chance to go back and look over it, what is the tallest structure on that site?
The water towers.
Absolutely. Colonel, do you know how far the water tower was from the roof where the shooter took his shots?
I do not.
160 yards, sir. Who made the decision, Colonel, not to put a counter sniper team on the tallest structure by far on the site with 360-degree surveillance? Do you have any idea?
I do not know, sir.
Okay. Why weren't security teams, sir, on site able to spot a 20-year-old kid with zero camouflage crawling up a white roof with an AR-15 that several rally goers were screaming and yelling and pointing out, and they noticed him, and they weren't even there to conduct security. They were there to watch the president. Do you have any idea why the security teams couldn't find that guy?
I do not, sir.
And so there were just so many things out there that just didn't make sense. And I'm glad, you know, we went out there multiple times, but there's still a lot of questions that we have and answers that we need.
Yeah, so more into the questions. So Doug Hagman, who's a private investigator, New York Post in February did a report on what his findings were, and he believes that Crooks did not act alone. Secondarily, you said he flew a drone, but the Secret Service was not allowed to fly their own drone. Based on what you've gathered, what would be your guess as to whether or not Crooks acted alone?
You know, I'm not big on trying to take, you know, guesses. I'm big on trying to follow where the actual facts lead, but I would not be surprised one bit if Thomas Crooks, you know, acted in coordination with others.
Yeah, and also the fact that, you know, you have John Wilkes Booth, you have Lee Harvey Oswald, you have Thomas Matthew Crooks, and then you have Ryan Wesley Ruth. And why do these guys all have 3 names on it? I know that that's just maybe a bizarre coincidence, but it seems like a lot of coincidences stacked up. As far as actionables moving forward with the investigation, there is a joint task force. You were a sniper on SEAL Team 3 and you weren't put on that task force. They haven't, from what I can see, released anything publicly since December. Do you think that task force has more work to do, or are they going to release more findings?
I'm not worried about the task force. That task force was political, and it's one of the reasons I didn't get on it myself. I didn't get on it. Corey Mills didn't get on it. You know, I'm more interested in some of the folks that we have now within, you know, agencies that are trying to get answers. I think that's the best path for us to actually get answers and transparency for the American people.
So do you think it would come from the FBI, from Kash Patel's FBI?
Well, that's one agency that I think, you know, might be able to help us, but there are other folks outside the FBI and other agencies that I'm talking to try and get more answers.
All right, I got a quick question for you guys. If that's where the sniper was, and that's the water tower up there, then why wasn't the Secret Service up there? Because it's pretty easy to see what's down here from up there. So I'm just asking questions here if anybody could help me out.